There are numerous streams of funding available, both in Greater Manchester and throughout the UK. One of the best ways of this would actually be to talk to the Business Growth Hub. We have numerous accesses to finance and the Business Finance Solutions team. The wealth of knowledge that they have to find the correct solution for you is massive. Equally, the local councils have funds available, start-up funds, loans and grants. And that is where I would actually look to obtain any finance whatsoever.
The Business Growth Hub does have an access to finance team, and if somebody is serious about getting some funding for their business, I would certainly recommend they speak to them. There's a lot of grants, a lot of part funding available to SMEs, both in the Greater Manchester area and nationally, and they can apply for those and see whether they get them through.
Funding's a major factor for businesses. It's again one of the first things that we're asked about when we are advising clients is what the availability of funding. Traditional funding streams such as grant funding are more difficult to come by at this moment in time. But here at the Growth Hub we've got an access to finance team which is very much impartial and independent and will provide the best route for clients to access the right funding for them or identify the right funding for them. Other sources, there are niche grants that are out there if you're in a particular sector, such as innovation. There's quite a lot of funding around for innovation and research and development, and that can be schemes linking in with the university, things like knowledge transfer partnerships, match funding where the client contributes an element and then that's matched by the funding stream. Other than that, clients also looking to access public procurement channels and public procurement routes are often unaware that there is a Northwest procurement portal called the Chest, which lists all the local authority tenders and procurement opportunities. So I would also advise small to medium enterprises who may fit within the supply chain to look at that route as well.
I think it's important that a business gets the right funding in place before it actually looks to the growth. If they're looking for growth and the funding isn't right, then they'll just run out of money. So I think it's important that they explore the market. They may have been with a bank for a long time, but like insurance, you wouldn't stay with the same insurance provider, you'd explore the market. So there's plenty of banks out there who could look at the funding for you, may come up with some different types of rates for you, as well as different funding structures, which would help the business going forward.
What I always recommend to the customers is to totally understand what you're asking for funding for. If you don't understand what it is, you're less likely to have a successful funding application. So if you know what it's for, you know how it's going to improve your business, then yes, public sector and private funding is a good way to go. But don't just assume that the funds will become immediately available. You have to work for them.
Some of the pitfalls that clients come across when looking to access funding is not having a clear project plan, not understanding what it is that they're bidding for funding for. Sometimes they'll see that there's a pot of funding available and they'll just pitch in rather than having a clear strategy of what they are actually trying to achieve as the project plan and the project goal and outcomes. So I think that's one of the most common pitfalls with small to medium enterprises. Again, the lack of knowledge and expertise in completing funding documentation, time and resource scarcity to sort of again fill that bit of paperwork in and get that over the line. There I would say some of the pitfalls around funding and applying for funding for small to medium-sized enterprises.
When a business is looking to grow, a great way of growing is overseas. But the downside with growing overseas is that it keeps up an awful lot of capital because your funding's tied up for a lot longer before you get paid from your end user. So by providing funding for that growth, they're able to then expand overseas, which allows them to make more money from a gross profit point of view. But generally speaking, it can be 30-60 days on top of what you usually expect from somebody in the UK.